This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Flipping back the calendar to highlight yesteryear's finest and exploring the vast archives in cinema history. This is the Movie Review Rewind podcast on the Sobros Network.
Welcome back for another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast. It is your boy, the EIC at Sobros Network, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. Follow us collectively at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. Joined as usual by the man with the plan. He is a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association. He is a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association. He is Mr. Big Shot, our resident film critic, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today? Hope you had a nice Valentine's Day, by the way. It is the month of love.
That's right. I did. We went and got barbecue at Porky's.
Is that right? I didn't know there were still any Porky's around.
It's in Brentwood.
Is that right?
That's the only reason I know, is because my wife, I pass it when I go visit my wife or maybe pick up my kid, and I'm amazed.
Still there, still
Let
kicking.
me pull back the curtain. I've never fucking ate at Porky's, but I'm amazed that I'm like you. I'm amazed that it's still there, and I one day it's like what's the place out here in Donaldson that's hidden behind
Barbecuity?
No, I don't. It's not even barbecue, but it's is it a chicken tender or catfish place?
Uncle Bud's.
Uncle Bud's.
That's old Nashville.
I know. I'm shocked that it's still there.
Yeah. And people still love it, though. But I'm happy that you're celebrating old Nashville by supporting these businesses for your romantic Valentine's Day dinners.
I try. Every year we try to pick some place that no one else would go to.
Yeah.
Last year was Fuddruckers.
Okay.
In Knoxville.
Okay.
So that was
a long
nice.
drive for a weeknight.
Yeah, well, we usually do stuff on the weekends.
Yeah. I like Po' Boys.
Oh.
I think that's been close since before we were in high school.
Where is that?
It used to be in Donaldson.
Are you a fan of Ziggy's Pizza?
I was at one point.
I don't even know if they're open.
Not to just slam local establishments.
That's Gladeville's only pizza place.
It is. There's 2 locations now, though.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know. The original is still in downtown Gladeville.
Yeah.
But there's another one in that new strip mall next to the new gas station.
That's right.
Yeah. We've eaten at that Mexican restaurant. Haven't had Ziggy's. I really want to try Tipsy Thai. I hear good things about Tipsy Thai.
Is that Mexican place nice?
It made my stomach hurt. It was good.
Like Taco Bell?
It was good as I was having it, and then 10 minutes after leaving,
10 minutes?
After leaving the restaurant,
I don't know.
I was hurting, sweating. My body was making all kinds of noises.
Is it like where you go up and order? Or is it a restaurant?
Excuse me? Like fast food?
Like, or what's
no,
that?
it is like
Salsaritas. Is it like that?
No, it's
okay.
They have a drive-through, so you can actually drive through, place your order, and you can walk up to the counter and place an order.
It's a restaurant.
To go, but we went. I can't remember actually. No, we had service. We sat at a table.
I know you can sit outside because I always see that patio, which it's just in a concrete parking lot.
Really romantic Valentine's Day.
But
spots.
there's lights hanging.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I'm shocked my parents haven't eaten there.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not.
We always just go to Mimo's when we want Mexican.
That's true. That's just down the road.
Yeah, not too far. But cold, dreary outside this time of year. Yeah. Kind of that time period when, I don't know about you.
It's about to get hot.
The holidays are over with.
Yeah.
We've probably gotten all the snow we can handle for the year at this point.
Yeah.
I get to a stretch in February where I'm just begging for the spring to come on.
I do enjoy, once we get into February and all the days you get off from work are over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Tennessee just doesn't really get a spring. So once you get a little bit of warmth, you better enjoy it. Yeah, you enjoy those 4 days.
Yeah, because
the heat wave's coming until October at least.
But the one good thing about this month is that I feel like it's really good on the cinematic calendar. I think there are some pretty good rom-coms.
So, are we about to go down this road that certain movies you only watch during Valentine's Day?
I'm not gonna force that. I'm just saying for like a date night.
Oh yeah, okay.
I
like it.
It's a good.
No, I do.
It's a good genre for.
I'm with you.
For the times.
Yeah,
so
and they don't really make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
I gotta say.
And even with this film, we'll be talking about 2008's Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Hell yeah.
Even with this film, man, I can't remember. I can't remember a time since then, and maybe this is where I can tap into your knowledge base, that someone has put out a movie that is this good and this funny at the same time.
Oh.
Yeah. I liked Crazy Stupid Love a lot. I think that's one of the greatest rom-coms of all time, but I don't think it was as funny as this film.
Not as... Yeah, I mean, I didn't laugh as much, but there is... Yeah. Bridesmaids?
Bridesmaids is a good one.
That's a rom-com.
Yeah.
It's raunchy rom-com, but it's rom-com.
Yeah.
That one was pretty damn funny. We were talking about, and I have a review of this out on SoBrosNetwork.com, but it's like maybe 2 years ago now. But I had high hopes for that Reese Witherspoon, Ashton Kutcher movie, Your Place or Mine.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It was
pretty awful.
That was the worst movie. I think that was the worst movie I saw that year. I think that was the very last one.
It was one of the worst I'd seen. Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Let's see. Long Shot comes to mind. That was kind of a surprise.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked. I feel like there is one recently that I thought, this kind of feels like a throwback a little bit, but I can't recall what it is off the top of my head.
Oh, Anyone But You?
No, I hated that movie.
I know.
I hated that movie.
I know. You're probably thinking of Hamlet 2.
But when I think of like the good rom-coms of the last 20 years or so, I think of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I think of Crazy Stupid Love. Yep. I think of 50 First Dates. I still love that movie as well.
I still kind of linger on the like Knocked Up.
Knocked Up, yeah.
Like that one. 500 Days of Summer.
500 Days of Summer is a good one.
It's funny, but not in like Forgetting Sarah Marshall funny, but that's a great one.
Yeah. So I do put Forgetting Sarah Marshall in that
40-Year-Old Virgin?
40-Year-Old Virgin, yeah.
Kind of when Steve Carell was, Judd Apatow was really really kind of making their moves.
I put this movie in that category of films. Would you put it up there too?
Yeah, I don't know if I kind of feel like Crazy Stupid Love, 500 Days of Summer was probably right above that.
Yeah.
I think I like Knocked Up. I think, here's the thing. I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall is probably funnier than a lot of movies, but then there's kind of that emotional weight, and that's not really Forgetting Sarah Marshall's thing.
Yeah, sure.
But so some of the films resonate more because there is that Judd Apatow balance of kind of that, there's heartbreaking stuff and there's hilarious stuff.
Yeah.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall is kind of more of kind of like a full-blown comedy with romance in it more than like,
Yeah.
But it is one of the better ones of the past 2 decades. I don't disagree with that at all. And I forget that Jason Segel wrote it.
Oh, I didn't even catch that when I was researching for this. Oh, I guess. Well, see, I don't know. Like, there's stuff like Failure to Launch, Hitch, Kate and Leopold. Was that in the that was 2001, barely. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just Friends, The Proposal. What Happens in Vegas, The Breakup. I thought the breakup was pretty good. Was okay, but I don't know, man. Like,
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is the only one that's up there.
I don't know if it's just my preference when it comes to sense of humor. I mean, Forgetting Sarah Marshall is still
that's
100% my sense of humor. I don't know if that's what gives it the edge for me or not, but there are other things that I like about this movie that we'll get into over the course of this podcast, but for me, this kind of feels like a sweet spot between a good, easy, romantic movie, but just a flat out, nonstop laughter kind of comedy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what I look at and say, this is what separates Forgetting Sarah Marshall from the rest. I don't think it's as deep. Now, I do think that it's a little underrated in some of the themes that it explores and the portrait that it paints of a man trying to recover from a vicious breakup.
Oh, yeah.
I think there are aspects of it that are a little underrated as a story as far as that goes.
I think because the silliness that's at the forefront of everything.
Yeah.
But for something like that, I mean, I feel like that's just, I mean, that's part of the storytelling that you have to accept. But I agree. I think a lot of people kind of remember, like, him shaking his dick around more so than like some of the themes of, like, of heartbreak and like you kind of go into like this depression.
Yeah.
And how do you escape it and get out of it?
It's kind of an interesting case study in watching somebody dig themselves out of that.
Yeah. Well, I remember Jason Segel saying, and I think it's while he was writing this, actually, I'm almost positive it was this, that Judd Apatow told him, write the movie like a drama. He goes, because the way you see the world, the comedy will come. He goes, so write it like a drama.
I wonder if that...
And it makes sense when I rewatched Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm like,
but there's also a moment at the end of the film when he actually says to Mila Kunis's character, Rachel, he actually says, like, I didn't realize it was a comedy.
Yeah.
And he talks about, like, writing the play as a drama and then makes a nod like, I didn't realize it's a comedy. And since you say that, I kind of wonder now in retrospect if that was a little nod to the process there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember Jason Segel was retelling it, but basically said he was telling Jason, like, the way you see the world is funny. So even when you write as it a drama, you won't. It will still be funny because that's just the kind of guy you are, and it really makes sense. And when he makes that comment at the end, I feel like that was almost like quoting Judd Apatow when he put it in the movie.
Yeah. So I watched this movie. I went through a really bad breakup in 2010, and I'm just vicious. Like, I was Jason Segel in this movie, like the old woman crying on the top floor that gets the front desk called on her. That was me. And I watched this movie and MacGruber like every night.
That's a classic.
For like, I'm not kidding. It was probably like 3 or 4 weeks. I was putting one of these movies on and just sitting on the couch and just trying to forget about everything for a little bit. So this movie did have a little bit of a special place in my heart when we talked about covering it for this year's Valentine's episode.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, because it did become one of those movies where after like the dozenth time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch something else now. And you grow, you feel better with time.
Yeah.
You move on. And I never really revisited this movie since then. This is kind of weird. Like, I watched it almost every other night for a month straight and then just didn't watch it again. A lot of time passes, 14 years, and I revisit this film. And to me, I don't think I don't think there's anything about this film that aged poorly outside of Russell Brand being in it.
Yeah, besides it, because
he's a problematic
that was his
figure,
breakthrough.
But
no one knew who he was until that. But
yeah,
no, none of the material, none of the storytelling, dialogue. Yeah,
which
Russell Brand's good in it. I mean, can't take that away from him.
But you can't. There's a reason.
But he's not this. Yeah,
he's not around anymore.
Right. Yes.
And he's gone a little crazy.
I would say he's around depending on who you are. But
kind of joined the grift a little bit. But I was really surprised at how well the material held up, the script held up. I don't think this is a movie. I would put it this way. I don't think this is a film you go into expecting to see some knockout acting performances from an ensemble cast. I think Jason Segel's really good in it. And I do too. Honestly, I don't think I appreciated his portrayal of Peter in this film at the time until watching it back now all these years later. But I really think he did a great job of selling the sad boy stuff. And to me, that's what kind of grounds this as a realer story that a lot of people can empathize with and relate to when they watch this film. So I was we do this so much when we revisit a film that we liked when we were younger, and it doesn't really hit the same as adults.
When you get older.
But for me, I watched this from the opening scenes with the crime scene of the crime stuff. I'm laughing, and I'm laughing all the way through the end, in between episodes of crying because of what's going on with Jason Segel and how he's portraying this. I thought it held up remarkably well, given the genre that is so typically reflective of contemporary times. I kind of felt like there's a timeless quality to this film that I didn't appreciate at the time that I was watching it regularly. Upon rewatch, how did you feel about how this movie held up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very relatable in the sense of you don't even have to have your heart broken to understand some of the situations that he kind of runs into. Because, Jason Segel isn't that outrageous in the movie. It's really everyone else that's kind of around there. Russell Brand, Jonah Hill, Paul Rudd, Bill Hader. All of those cast of characters are the ones that kind of add to it, but they're the ones that are kind of allowed to, whether it's obnoxious or creepy or standoffish. And, he's kind of like the normal guy for the most part.
Yeah.
And then there's things I think that he kind of brings up where you're like, yeah, like if you're in that situation, that would have like those awkwards where you're sitting at the table by yourself and you're like, it's just you.
I would be depressed. I would be so bored.
And so I agree. I think it holds up extremely well. I think it actually, seeing it as like a teenager, early 20s, and then see it in your late 30s makes a difference.
Yeah.
I think it just comes with life experience. It's funny, but it's quite sincere.
It is.
It is written in a way and told in a way of that there is empathy even when Kristin Bell could have been an all right, villain or a bitch in the movie.
Yeah.
But she's not. And even when you think she is, you kind of see where they kind of got lost, but maybe still not meant for each other. So it really wasn't Russell Brand anyway. It was something else. And that happens. That happens in real life.
I was just about to say, like, you see real life in those moments because it's not an inherently hero versus villain thing or good or bad or anything like that.
It's figuring shit out after
things get turned around.
Yeah. After you think you're meant to be together forever and you're not, and you can't imagine life without them, but you do. But yes, there are times where, where he kind of basically just says, the hell with you at work and starts doing all that. But when he gets down there to paradise, basically, it is funny, but it's also, you feel for the guy. Not that you don't before, but it's just one of those, especially because it's not like he really, and he's not even trying. Like, it's not like he's trying to pick up Rachel. Like, he's not even, he's not there. And he's so honest.
He is.
He's just wearing his heart on his sleeve. And it is what it is.
And I think that's another interesting layer to Segel's Peter, the character, not his dick, which we see a couple times.
Yeah, it is a part of the ensemble.
It is a part of the ensemble for sure. But I think there is a layer to that where, you got me talking about his Peter, and now I'm distracted.
Well, it's a healthy one.
Yeah, it's a good looking dick, Peter.
Good looking dick.
Go out there and fuck anything as long as you wear a condom.
Harrison Ford, when doing Shrinking, before they had met, he had texted Jason Segel, and I think he said "nice dick" or something. It's something like that. You'll have to. Anybody else, you can Google it, but he literally sent him a text saying
awesome.
that because he had watched that movie. But I want to know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I got my thought before
right,
I got it back. I think there is an honesty in his character that I think you appreciate in people if you're out there in real life in the dating world. I think that's one of the things that felt like a very calculated thing with his character to show you it's an easy way to illustrate it's a good guy here. This is a good guy here that you root for, you feel for. And to me, that was kind of, because I thought about that watching the film, like this is a really smart touch to add depth to his character and show people that you should sympathize with him.
Not only sympathize with him, but I think you don't even have to be a guy, but especially if you're a guy, you relate to him, because there's that scene where talks about those jogging pants, and then it shows him every day where he's wearing those jogging pants. I'm like, we've all been there where you just end up putting on the same thing. But yeah, there is something to his character that it could have been written and it could have been portrayed in a kind of goofy way.
Yeah.
But I love the way that it's handled, because like I said, it definitely resonates, and I think people see some of them in their situation, and maybe Kristin Bell too. I mean, everybody you kind of feel for it. I think everybody's probably in some form or fashion has been in that situation, as far as again, thinking it's meant to be forever and it's not, and now looking back, you can't imagine life with them.
Sure.
But back then it was like, oh, that's as devastating as it gets. So, but yeah, it's actually really smart, and again, I think it's really handled with real sincerity that I don't think you really appreciate when you're kind of young and dumb and are laughing at, like, the dick and just Jonah Hill still made me laugh quite a bit.
Too.
I forgot how funny / creepy he was with Russell Brand.
Yeah.
And his conversations with Peter. It was he was funny. Paul Rudd was funny, and Bill Hare, but I feel like Jonah Hill, like, he didn't even have that many scenes either, but he was just like, when they're sort of like Russell Brand and Sarah Marshall, they're talking, and he acts like he gave them like cake and champagne. He's like, when I mean on the hotel, I mean I paid for it out of my pocket. And they continue this like personal conversation, and then it shows up, he's like, do you want champagne? Like, he won't leave, and then he sits down with it, and I'm just like, it's those little awkward moments that I also enjoyed.
Even when he gets up and walks away, like the way that he walks away is so, it's so funny. It is. And a good chunk of this movie is about those awkward moments. Yeah.
And obviously Peter has quite a few of them once he checks in and stuff, but it still holds up. It's really funny, but I do kind of appreciate it more in a sense, and I think it's just from looking at it, as an older guy.
So you said sincerity. I think that's a great word for it. I think it does play a lot deeper than a lot of romantic comedies of the era.
Yeah,
and I think the humor, the barrage of moments that make you laugh throughout the film, I think those are the two things for me that make it really stand apart. But I think the layer of depth to it is an overarching theme of healing. And it's interesting to see Jason Segel as the central figure in all this, but you do pick up on different types of healing with some of the other characters in this film as well. Even, Russell Brand's character, Aldous Snow, at the end, kind of realizing when it's come to him, like, this is not where I'm at in life. Like, I don't want this kind of stuff. I'm out of here. Like, just packing my bags and fucking gone. And Sarah Marshall is having second thoughts. Like, you see, like, when something happens like this, traumatic in someone's life, or just the overall general process of dating and falling in love and all that, you see so many different perspectives of how this stuff happens in real life, that to me, that is where I felt like the movie was the smartest, is that it's underrated as a film that's just, Jason Segel's dick and crying and, hot people falling in love in Hawaii and all this stuff, is that you do see windows, glimpses of real life in many different ways, from many different perspectives, through the myriad of characters. I mean, you could even argue Jack, the guy from 30 Rock, Jack McBrewer? Him,
I think, oh yeah.
Even
them,
with them as a couple, like, even as they're evolving and trying to figure out how to love one another, there is this overarching theme of, like, how do we get better at this, and how do we grow as people?
It's very true.
That I don't think Forgetting Sarah Marshall is appreciated for. That's
true.
How difficult is it to pull that off in a film where you're checking both boxes of, hey, we're adding elements of real life. This is going to be entertaining to people. It's going to be funny to people. But at the same time, you do see the depth, in my opinion, the depth that makes a movie really resonate with people.
Yeah, well, I would say it kind of makes them feel and look more human.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So they're not like just clowns at the circus and only two people actually have anything, any kind of arc, any kind of development. Now, take Jack McBrewer's character. Is that his name?
I don't know. I need to
know
look
he's on
that
30 Rock. I want to say it's something something.
Jack McBrayer?
McBriar. I think it's
maybe?
McBriar.
McBriar. Yeah.
But like, now granted, his is more absurd, but it's also hilarious.
Yeah.
When they're first trying sex, he's like, no, he's like, well, it's hurting, and it's him. It's him saying it.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. I think it's in a way of everybody's kind of been through it, and there is this kind of stage in life that you have to kind of just get through, whether it's breaking up, getting together, getting engaged, figuring out marriage, what's that, and how long have you known it. I think it does kind of hit a lot of different elements to, I think, how difficult it is to just not only form a relationship, but to keep it.
Keep one. Yeah. Oh,
just
well
in
said.
in all aspects of life. Even if, I've known my wife for 10 years and it's still, everything has its challenges, and, you don't question how much you love them. You just know, things happen, and you're like, okay, well, nothing is like when you first started dating, and nothing's like when you do get married, and then how old you are when you got engaged, how old you are when you get married. And so I think he's kind of picking up on a lot of different phases in one's life. He's not there. He probably imagined himself being married to Sarah Marshall. So then you have that married couple who clearly don't have it figured. And no one has it figured out. No one really, even though you think you know what you're doing, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do get there, I would imagine it's quite gratifying. And I think towards the end is at least Peter and Rachel kind of getting there.
Yeah, I would agree.
But kudos to that puppet show too. I love the creativity of literally even just a piece of that musical play.
Yeah.
I'm like, and the fact I know Jason Segel wrote that.
I think from a filmmaking perspective, there's also some what I thought really effective stuff. I really liked the flashback cuts that they did where he's with Rachel, but something small happens that reminds him of
Oh, yeah.
Sarah, and they cut back to various moments throughout their relationship. I thought that was a really nice, touching, not necessarily heartwarming, almost heartbreaking, where you're getting these glimpses of these moments in the past that made him very, very happy, and now he's remembering these when he's with someone new. And another aspect of being real life and feeling those things when you do find someone new after a breakup. I thought that was a really effective way of doing that. It might have been like the easy way out, you could say, but I felt like in the moment that was a really effective way of getting that point across.
But I also think it speaks truth to, even when something like that happens and you say you're over it, but you're really not, that's almost kind of that internal struggle.
Yes, it's a great point.
That shows that there are going to be things that remind you of them. And even when you are totally done and over it and life's moved on, it doesn't mean, but it also doesn't mean it never happened.
Yeah.
And that you should regret it either.
Yeah.
I feel like there's both, you can look at it from both sides, that, it's heartbreaking that he had it, but they had it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to just, snap of a finger and poof, you got to take the good with the bad.
I also think there's something about this film that oddly captures the majesty of Hawaii and like the thrill
it's beautiful.
Going on vacation and kind of getting out of the routine a little bit. I think I felt myself watching this film feeling like I'm out of Nashville, Tennessee for a couple of hours. It's very, very nice. Do you chalk that up to just, hey man, it's hard to fuck up Hawaii? Or do you think do you give the filmmaking team props for tapping into that? Do you think it was more of a technical thing, or did they just benefit from?
I think it's the location scouts.
Yeah.
Dream.
Tip of the cap.
Granted, you can probably show, I'm sure there's shitty parts of Hawaii, but clearly they're not close to them.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's just, let's do this at a beautiful setting. It reminds me of that movie Couples Retreat.
Yeah.
It's not, it's an all right movie, but tell me that people didn't sign up just to go there and bullshit around.
Man, that's a great example of the films that come to mind when you think like your standard issue rom-com of the era. And that's
Wedding Crashers.
The kind of film that I think is above that. Wedding Crashers. I did like
Wedding Crashers is one of the best.
I forgot about that.
I'm just thinking, we're also in the heat of Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Comedies and Owen Wilson. But yes, I always think of Couples Retreat because I'm like, what a wonderful paradise. And I thought that movie is not that great. I know it wouldn't take me much to make money and then tell me I'm going to shoot there.
Yeah. Do you think the location contributes to the enjoyment of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, or do you think this could have worked a number of different places? Because I kind of feel like, they tap into the dinner scene when like Sarah's talking about people in Hawaii running from the real world, and Rachel takes exception to that. You see like the hotel workers, like they kind of pay homage to the island in different scenes. I kind of feel like that adds to the film myself, and I don't know that it would have worked quite the same at another location. What do you think about that?
I tend to agree. I think Hawaii is the perfect spot if you think about a getaway, but also what Hawaii, it's picturesque and what it offers.
Yeah.
But then there's also those, which is kind of the same thing, where everybody lives. If you live there, it's not so much of just a dream world.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of attack, but I also think there is this attachment to Hawaii as almost like a lover's paradise. What could go wrong at a beautiful place like this? And I know there's other locations, but I do think it serves a story. But also, if you're going to tell a story like that, it would be weird if they they happen to be at the same hotel and it was, in Dallas.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Hawaii was a smart choice, but there is where it's like, what? Everybody should be happy in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And
Two more things on the storytelling aspect of this movie. I absolutely loved the final shot of the Dracula Muppet with the woman Muppet and the heart closing in on it. I thought that was a nice little touch.
That was kind of old school.
Old school is a great way of putting it. I loved the transformation where the whole film, like we're seeing Peter kind of struggle to get back on his own 2 feet, and he's looking outside of himself for resolution, seeking, and not just like, oh, I'm going to find some new woman to fuck, but like drinking a lot, kind of going to experience new things, surfing, all this stuff. And I think at the end, I thought it was a nice touch that they do get to the transformation where he does kind of realize, I need to improve myself before I can get back out there kind of deal. And he's running on the treadmill, cleaning his apartment. I thought that was a really nice touch. Well, anything else from the story aspect that you want to cover before we move on?
No, I think we kind of nailed it down. But I do like the fact of like, they don't totally go for like the cliche falling in love. You get that nice shot at the end, but it is about you know what, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
And he realized that and, got his shit together first. And so I do kind of like they took that approach more than just kind of the, and also goes back to what I was about to say. It would have been so easy to have them kind of run after each other in Hawaii. Yeah. But they don't.
Yeah.
It happens after kind of vacation's over and she goes back. And so I thought that was, I thought that made for a better ending, especially.
I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Okay.
Calling back to our September episode with When Harry Met Sally. I'm going to ask you to do an impression.
The greatest rom-com.
Can you do an impression of Jason Segel's Dracula?
Oh, maybe.
I can do mine first.
What does he say?
Okay.
I just need the line.
Right, here we go. It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better.
Okay.
Let's hear what you got.
That's a good one. It's hard to believe things are going to get better.
There we go. That's what the people come here to listen.
Well, it kind of came in at the end.
It did. You got there. What the fuck happened to Jason Segel? I really liked I Love You Man after this, and then there's a wide gap of what I would say like good shit between this era Jason Segel and then he just somehow pops back up in Shrinking with Harrison Ford, which I think is him at his best.
I love that show. But, honestly, because he's been doing stuff, I think I don't know, he's been popping up on some interviews, and I think part of it is dealing with Shrinking.
He gets in on the Despicable Me hype train.
He does, but he's I think it's about kind of being centered around comedy, and it's a recent interview where he basically, or maybe he said this before the first season of Shrinking came out, but that he kind of wanted to do something else. So he kind of did drama, which is what is it? The End of the Tour, where he plays a famous writer. It just escaped me.
The End of the Tour, about writer David Foster Wallace.
Yes. And he's great in that. But then there was something where he kind of ran away from comedy. And also he does make a comment about how kind of comedies aren't really made the same way as they used to be, which I think Vince Vaughn had recently talked about that too, because he's doing a show. But I think Shrinking ended up where he said it's almost like his strength. There's drama and comedy together, and he said he never really thought of it that way. He kind of thought of one or the other. So it sounded like he kind of pumped the brakes a bit and was like, okay, I don't know if I want to continue to do this. But, I know he did the Muppets movie?
He was in the Muppets
movie.
Which
he co-wrote and wrote some songs, I think. He was
written by Jason Segel and Nicholas Stoller, who was the director for Getting Sarah Marshall.
Okay, I was going to say.
So they reunite for the Muppets.
Which I would say, that's actually a really fun movie.
I never saw it.
Yeah, it's actually, it's
Amy Adams, Chris Cooper.
It's very smart. It's very smart.
Well, now I'm going to have to go watch the Muppets.
And I wouldn't have thought of it, but it really was. It was... But yeah, I think it sounded like it was definitely it was on purpose, and he kind of wanted to do something different, and then he kind of thought Shrinking was like, oh, okay. I can do both in one.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's his best stuff. I really the balance
I
of
do
that
too.
show and Harrison Ford. It's the first time in a long time where Harrison Ford, I think, is really like, he's funny, but I think he's funny in real life, but he doesn't really play it that way because we're used to these heroes.
Yeah.
But this guy is just like, I really enjoy it. The whole cast is great. That guy from Married with Children.
Man, I
forgot his name. Who's Darcy's husband, the second husband.
Mm-hmm.
I love him.
I felt like there was just a moment in time where it felt like Jason Segel was going to become one of those next big faces of comedy. Well,
I feel like you got Steve Carell, Judd Apatow. They're all kind of no, I get it, and I think that's it's funny how like we look at it, and then you hear them tell the story of like, it's not that they quit working, it's that it's almost like they've done this, so what else can I do without, there's a movie I like that it's called 5 Year Engagement with him and Emily Blunt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a drama with comedy in it. And I thought that was good, but I think I don't know. It definitely sounded like it was a decision, but I feel like, because he's such a talented guy in general, not just acting, but in writing and everything else, that, I mean, he could probably do anything, but the fact that he landed with this show, and of course the guy that I forgot his real name. He's on Ted Lasso. He co-created Shrinking. He plays Hercules in the MCU.
Is it Brent or Brett Goldstein?
Yes, that's
one of those. Yeah. We're good. We're professionals on this podcast.
But yeah, he did voice. Was it Despicable Me 3?
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's just,
he probably started that like 3 years before it came out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the cast a little bit because I feel like they assembled the perfect complements to the way Segel played Peter.
Yeah.
Like the sad boy with some good like real life one-liners in there as well. I mean, Paul Rudd, to me, I completely forgot he was in this film.
I sort of remembered him, but yeah, I didn't really. I forgot Jonah Hill was in it.
Yeah,
so
I did too.
Paul Rudd was like not a surprise when Jonah Hill. I'm like, oh yeah.
Paul Rudd's got some of the best lines in the film to me when he says like the weather outside is weather as he's singing. The scene where Aldous gets the piece of coral stuck in his leg and he's just like, you sound like you're from London. And he's like, yeah, I am.
Isn't it funny how like Paul Rudd now? I mean, he had a lot of those kind of roles in those other in movies like that.
And I loved when he goes to him and he says, I want to get on a wave, and he says, you're not ready. And then he says, I'm not leaving here without getting on a wave. And he goes, I think you're ready. It's just the shift. But even like the little things where he's not even delivering lines, but when Jack's character, the frustrated man that doesn't know how to fuck his wife, he's going over having this like breakdown at the bar.
Oh yeah.
Just the look on Paul Rudd's face when he's watching this man melt down is like, there's not a thought in that man's skull. Yeah. And it's so good. I thought Bill Hader was great in this as well, as sort of like the straight shooting, I guess, stepbrother is what they are. I thought he was pretty good. Kristin Bell and Mila Kunis are fine in their roles.
Yeah.
Russell Brand is kind of Russell Brand, and you mentioned Jonah Hill, but I feel like they did a good job of kind of getting different types of comic relief to Jason Segel, who has his own comedy chops in the film. I'm not saying he's not funny, but I think his air of depression kind of grounds the film, but you have a great cast around him to make sure that there's no shortage of laughs.
And he's opening the material up for them to come in and deliver these laughs and show different personalities.
Yeah.
He is the star of the movie, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
From everybody that is contributing. I can't look at Bill Hader the same after Barry. Like, when he was like between his haircut and everything, and forgetting Sarah Marshall, and he's kind of the, I guess, SNL comedy guy. I can't, like, he's funny, but the way that his career has
I feel
is
like
gone.
this might have been the first time I really noticed Bill Hader. It was either this or Hot Rod.
Yeah, Hot Rod.
Hot Rod, I want to talk about that movie. I want to watch that
I feel
again.
like there was something. I don't know,
But
but
yeah.
I can't look. I can't look at him the same either.
All right, let's talk. To me, the best aspect of this film, the quotes. I think this is one of the more quotable films of the era.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like from start to finish, I was laughing. But
It really has some good liners in there.
some of my favorites are when he's swinging his dick, or after
Yeah.
he's swinging his dick
Yeah.
around, and she keeps saying, "Peter, can you just put some clothes on?" He's like, "I'm not gonna put clothes on. I know what that means. If I put clothes on, it's over."
And then when he just sits down and cries in his hands, but he's still butt ass naked.
Bare ass on the couch. Yeah, I like when Bill Hader's trying to be nice in the club, and then Peter responds with, "No, I need to be my L on somebody's T's." is great. I like the doctor, something we've already said earlier, when he's like, "Peter, I'm a pediatrician. Have you noticed you're sitting on a fire truck?" But then he says, "It's a good-looking dick. Keep fucking. Fuck everything that moves. Just wear a condom." I like when they show him the montage of all the one-night stands, the woman he's on top of at one point that's just going like,
He's just staring at her.
and then she says, "I just came." I like when he first realizes Sarah's on the island with him, and the first thing he says is, "I wish I wasn't wearing this fucking shirt." That's pretty good. Then when she does acknowledge that he's there, he says, "I came here to murder you."
Yeah. That's the one I always remember. And he says it in such a way.
Yeah.
That's what.
And then the getting complaints of a woman crying hysterically was pretty good. I remember too the line, "Are those happy tissues or sad tissues?"
No.
It was pretty good. But what are some of your favorite lines from the movie?
I like, and I can't remember. I can't remember word for word, but it's when he runs into Russell Brand out in the water. And, and like Russell Brand gives these details of his wife, and like he looks disgusted. And then Russell Brand says, like, what does he say? Like, "Oh, just trying to be," like, he's so nonchalant after Jason Segel's offended, and he just swims away.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
But the way he does it too is like
Yeah.
he puts his ass up in the, like it just looks so stupid.
Yeah. And I like the ones you've talked about are really good, but I love the where Russell Brand and Sarah Marshall are getting into it, and you just hear him say, "I fucked the maid 2 days ago."
Yeah, that
Like just out of like I think it was like the last thing until it cuts.
yeah.
But what made me chuckle the most, besides, like, I do like when he says nothing, but when he drops the towel at the beginning, like,
Yeah.
and that shows it, and he's so like shocked, and then he's so happy, and then he's like, "Oh," and it's so ridiculous how they meet, and then I love that it ends with him naked.
Yeah,
when she goes in, which I thought was I guess cute.
a pretty nice touch.
But everything with Jonah Hill was funnier than I thought.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you what he said, but like I know like he gives him shit about like where he starts taking away like the other menu and stuff because he's sitting there alone.
Yeah.
And then like he goes over to their table and he's like could not like giving them everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love he's like, and you know when you get that cake and stuff, and what I mean by that is I pay for it out of my own pocket.
Yeah.
And it's chocolate cake and champagne.
It's so stupid. I mean,
But doesn't he show up and say, "Hey, I heard that you guys like this," and so the hotel, like he acted like they ordered.
He just walks up.
I think Russell Brand they were like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah. I was surprised. I still laughed as much watching it in 2025 as I did watching it in 2008. I was really surprised by that. I would encourage people, if you haven't watched this one in a while, go back and revisit it.
Yes,
to me,
it's
it's a fantastic Valentine's Day film. I don't know if this episode will be released before Valentine's Day, but it'll still be February. Yeah, go check it out. That's all I got, Brandon. You got any parting thoughts on this film before we get on out of here?
Just one, and it's of all the things in the movie, I remember Jason Segel's dick
Yeah.
And I remember the trick that he does with Bill Hader and his sister.
Yeah.
Where it looks like she's sucking his dick.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Those two things I remembered.
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here on another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast. Thank you guys for your continued support of what we do here. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you take in your shows. We ain't too hard to find out in these internet streets. For Mr. Big Shot Brandon Vick, I'm Big Natural Stoney Keeley, and until next time, you stay. What's our phrase on Movie Review Rewind? You stay classy, moviegoers. I'm just going to say the same
roll
thing.
with it.
Yeah, we'll see you next month.